GM, guys. This is Karen, and welcome to the GM Show. If you're new to the show, this show is all about the ABCs. If you don't know your ABCs, it's Asia focus, builder friendly, and cool vibes only. I almost forgot my ABCs, but it's okay. So this week, Casey is traveling again, and it's just me this week. But don't worry, we have a great show for you because this week it's all about community. And if you don't know about 9gag and Memeland, we are all about community as well. We have been working on it for 15 years, and I'm really excited to have my guest today. But before that, let's hear a word from our chairman.
What is discussed on the GM Show is not investment advice. We may or may not have ownership interests in the projects we are talking about, but this is not investment advice in any way, shape or form. And this is not Sir David Attenborough.
Thanks, Chairman. Actually, this week is my 5th anniversary working in 9gag. And as I said, we're all about community. We came from Web 2 to Web 3. And some people are like, is community a real job? I mean, how do you explain that to your mom? And actually, it's yes. And you don't get to study it as a bachelor degree, but in university, because this job is all about real life experience. In my experience, it's all about experiences. And we found most of our Discord moderators in the community already, and they're already very active and helping others and growing the community with us. So it's really important to if you're interested in Web3, be in the community that you love and be active on it. And maybe one day you get to work for the community you love. And it's amazing, to tell your parents, tell your mom, hey, I'm working with 200,000 people online, and it sounds crazy. And community work is definitely an honest work, in my opinion, because most importantly, you always need to find the right tools to help you out. And especially when you're dealing with thousands of people out there. And someone just said I had to explain to my mom what a director of vibe was. Yeah, so it's actually about vibes too. If you want to manage a community of thousands of people, it's about creating good vibes, creating good content. It's a lot of you have to wear a lot of hats, basically. So today I'm happy to talk to these guys because they know how important community is in Web3, and I want to bring them up. But before that, I want to do a quick intro because CollabLand is an original full-service community management tools that curate memberships based on tokens, and it begins with verification, confirming that each prospective member possesses this required tokens to participate in your community, and follow up with routine checks to confirm they maintain their status. And currently over 50,000 projects use CollabLand as their primary tool for community management, including Adidas, World of Women, Pudgy Penguins, Doodles, and more. So I want to welcome James and Angeli.
Hello.
What's up, James? What's up, Angeli?
GM, so good to be here with you, Karen. I'm so excited about this, and thank you so much for having us on your show.
Yeah, of course. And I'm really excited because not only you guys are a couple, you guys work on the same project, and I have so many questions about community and how you balance your life. So before we start all that, why don't you start talking about how you guys started? What's the story behind CollabLand? How did it all started?
Wow. Okay. Good question. So we'll save our personal stuff for later. We'll talk a little bit about CollabLand right now and how we got started doing CollabLand. It's actually a little bit of a roundabout story, but I guess you can put the dots together into a line when you look back. Abridged is the name of the corporation. We started in 2018 with Social Recovery Contract Wallet. And James, feel free to hop in at any moment. He knows that once I get going, sometimes he's like, I'll just wait. But no, I'm inviting you, James, to
Thank you.
hop in.
I really appreciate that. But you go ahead.
Okay. And so we started with this social recovery contract wallet, really the goal being, and James's goal, I get to join it, and I'll share when I joined in, but James's goal and vision for crypto and for what we're all doing is to have as many people here as possible and share this with the world because of all the opportunities that it brings and the opportunities for people to make a new life for themselves. And so, and not having those racial and geographic barriers, and also just barriers, institutional barriers that you may have in your own country. So started that way and it went nowhere. Cricket noise. It went nowhere, no funding, no projects, no partners, just really kind of just hoping and praying. And I used to laugh at him during that time. And I would say, you're like the old man yelling at the clouds, like on the lawn, crypto's happening. And I'd be like, come on, crypto's not happening. I mean, this is way back in 2018. And then after a little bit over 2 years of doing that, he pivoted to NoCode Tooling. So he's also a developer. James, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your developer past.
No, I'll say that for later. Cool. You go ahead.
And so 2018, I'll say we, because I'm beginning to start and join the story here, switched to no-code tooling and then started creating little toys using our no-code tools in order to inspire developers. So the first approach was like trying to go after consumers to download a wallet and start using this no code, or sorry, not to use this social recovery contract wallet. It's a lot of words. Social recovery contract wallet, trying to get the consumer to use it. It wasn't happening. There weren't users in crypto then. So it was very difficult to try to find these groups of users that didn't exist. Wow. So then the strategy pivoted to trying to attract developers. And so the no-code tooling was an opportunity to say, hey, Web2 developers, come to Web3. You can just use our no-code tooling and you don't have to learn anything. We're going to make it super duper easy for you. And so what we started doing is creating little projects, little games, little applications using the no-code tooling to show off what was possible and to try to inspire developers. And CollabLand was one of those little toys. And it was months into it, like really trying to do this no-code tooling starting in January of 2020. And CollabLand came about, and James came up with this idea for CollabLand and doing this, whatever token gating was. Again, it was just a toy, not meant to be serious, just to inspire, not expecting it to become the primitive it is today. Was just another toy, like try this and make your own thing. And everyone said like, forget the tools, forget making our own thing. Like, we like this thing. We're just going to use this thing and keep using this thing and keep using this thing. So sorry, forget about the other stuff now. So that's kind of where we've been now since 2020, May of 2020. That's when CollabLand started. And that's when we got our first community. Actually, it was ours. We had a DAO then called Collab 19 to try to collect grants. Again, remember, this is the beginning of COVID, trying to collect grants and distribute grants to people who lost their home, lost their family member, lost their provider, all different ways. And then the people that were in our DAO were in other DAOs. And so they started using it. I can talk a little bit more about this. And then really summer of 2020, and we may talk about this later in the conversation too, but summer of 2020 was really DeFi summer. People started forming investment groups, sharing alpha, and using CollabLand as a requirement in order to get into those alpha groups. And so then that happened. And then, of course, we saw NFTs starting, and then really started with meme coin, and Jordan Lyle back in like September, October of 2020 was like the first NFT relationship. And then in the spring, Bored Ape started using us. And then I was like, oh my God, NFTs. And so I started DMing every single project I saw on Twitter and just like begging them to like try this bot CollabLand where they can get everyone that just bought their NFT into a group together, and would they want to do it, and just trying to sell them on it. And then here we are, 53,000 communities. And like you mentioned, like thankfully it's amazing, like Bored Ape, Doodles, Pudgy Penguin, Cool Cats, like so proud to be a part of all of those communities. Yeah, all of them. But for the women, I mean, like all of them, and we're just really proud to have offered this commitment to service and community. And we can talk up a little bit about our personal backgrounds later, but that's really what it's been about.
Wow.
To promote the crypto community, understanding community is the way to mass adoption, and wanting to welcome as many people as possible into this beautiful space.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great story. And I'm really, really interested, like, out of all the communities that you work with, like 50,000 of them, like, what do you see that creates a great and healthy community out there? Because I think like that's a lot of community managers trying to like really grow and trying to work their magic on.
Yeah, I will say James, I'm going to take this one too, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, then you're going to have to balance this out at some point. Trust me, everyone's not going to want to just hear me.
We'll all balance out. We'll find the balance as we go. I believe in that.
Well, this is also the end of our day, so James is probably like, I've had 25 meetings today. Like,
Yeah.
we're good. No, but being consistent is extremely important. Having a content calendar, having events that you always commit to them, that's important. Recognizing people who contribute is important. Elevating the voices of people who truly care, and even the people you think don't care and are giving you some feedback, it's important to take all that feedback. But I would say the most important thing are being consistent and recognizing your community members. Like, having events that people can participate at all different levels. I mean, that goes along with being consistent, but having content that you can provide and that you're sharing. Of course, the basic stuff, be a good person, be transparent, like share, like we do this thing called Balancing in Public with CollabLand, which is like talking about the problems that we're having. Like, we have to balance a lot of crap, and like, what do you do about that? How do you deal with that? And it's like, instead of trying to hide it away, problems that you're having, like, be transparent. This is fucking Web3. Like, let's just not do the same shit we did everywhere else. Like, let's take this seriously, an opportunity to create a future we want to see. And we try our best to lead by example. So that's what I would also recommend. I mean, I feel like in the short term, it's not going to get you all the buzz and the whatever, up only, moon, whatever. But it's like, over time, you have to think about what you're really trying to do here. Like, if you really believe in this and you believe this is the future, then you need to be setting down the foundation for that future. You shouldn't be trying to like just constantly think about mooning all the time and moving on to the next thing. Like, we're really trying to do something special here. We all are. So, let's take that commitment seriously.
Yeah, I mean, so what, like, all these communities, right? Like, who do you think got it? Like, who's got the best community?
Gosh, it's a really tough one. I mean, I can't mention every single one.
Great examples. Yeah.
But I mean, I would say, like, I'm a part of a lot of different communities. They all do different things. Like, a recent one I just joined, so I can talk about that one really quickly, which is like McLaren. And you're like, oh, McLaren, like McLaren is using CollabLand. I should check it out. Like, I'm going to Singapore, right? Like, that was part of like what motivated me to be like, okay, McLaren is in the F1. F1 is happening at the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm going to be there during the Singapore Grand Prix. Like, I should check it out, right? And so I joined the community, and it was actually really, really cool. And the interesting part is that most of the people there that are buying these NFTs are buying them because they're super fans of F1. They're super fans of McLaren, which has a huge international fan base. And so it was really, really cool because it was like they're talking specifically about that topic, right? It's like they're not talking about NFTs. They're not talking about crypto. They're talking about what their passion is. And their passion is F1, and their passion is racing, and their passion is McLaren. And the NFTs are just a way to have membership into that group. And so it's like obfuscating the technology a bit. But I think what they're doing with their community is really awesome. And it's really making sure they're staying engaged and sharing photographs, and the fans themselves are super fans. And so it really is nice to see them all talking and helping and learning from each other and sharing all the gossip, F1 gossip. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, there are more Web2 companies coming into the scene, right? So, like, compared to like the organic Web3 community that starts from zero, what do you think? Like, what's the difference there, and what kind of tips do you have for Web2 companies like coming into this? Like, it's pretty daunting for them, like having a community out there with like thousands of people, which they probably not used to a very one-on-one type of interaction, right?
Yes. Oh, James, here's another one for me. I'm sorry.
Go
Okay.
for it.
Okay. Yeah. So number one, I will say this is the future. If there's any of them listening, I will tell you there are many, many large companies that are kind of preparing and waiting in the wings and watching what's happening now and are going to be ready to join the minute they see any sign of a turning of this bear market. So people are already preparing. So don't be behind. But I will say instead of planning on a large initiative, like a large crypto NFT initiative, like start small, right? Like start with just trying something out seasonal. Like maybe for Paris Fashion Week, they could have done something, right? That it's like a limited number with a limited group. And then you start there and you just start with little experiments. That's number one. Number two, I would say start buying into projects that are right here, right now. Like, don't come into this as a outsider and then want to join in. Like, buy into our projects. There are plenty of
Yep.
projects out here, crypto projects. Join them, join the community, learn from them. Like, this is something that we have a culture. We have our own thing going on here, and we welcome everybody because we think this is the better way. So of course they're going to come join us. But at this time, it's still early enough that you can learn that what's happening is still feels very grassroots. And so there's an opportunity, especially a lot of these OG projects, like join them, see what's going on, see what they're doing, see what people are talking about. Try to get the lessons that have already been learned. You don't have to start all over. That's another tip. Another tip.
I have an example. Maybe I can jump in here. I thank you. I just remembered there was a point in time when Visa, the credit card company, bought a CryptoPunk.
Right.
And so they spend a certain amount of money, marketing dollars, to buy this CryptoPunk, and that's it. They just bought it. And word just got out. Like Visa's in crypto. Why? Because they got this CryptoPunk. And then subsequently, this is not financial advice, the CryptoPunk started to rise in price. So now from a marketing perspective, you had Visa that usually will spend money and marketing is a cost center, became a revenue generation center. So it's like interesting how Web3 marketing, I think, is going to look completely different and with brands. So we had a meeting with Mattel a while ago, but Mattel with their Barbie movie partnered with Boss Beauties. And so it's like a way of being able to, as Anjali was saying, these are specific examples of big brands that like are part of an established community. You learn, right. And as a brand, you are part of the community instead of just having to dive both feet in and like leading a community. You're like, okay, wait, this is too much. You can be part of several communities. And from that, you can then bring your own communities. I mean, this is really how CollabLand really grew, is that we were there from the very beginning. We invented token gating. And so when different members of the original community started spreading out to join or create their own communities, they use CollabLand. So it kind of just spreads organically. So I think that this organic kind of collaboration is part of kind of the root vibe, I guess you would call it. And this is what I would say to encourage brands to kind of soft shoe into other communities first before starting your own. We had the same kind of thing here when we launched with there's a show called The Masked Singer here in the States. I don't know if it's international or not. I think it is. But they had us help manage their communities at first for their initial season when they were launching NFTs. And then they got slowly more involved. So I think it's this way of being able to embrace other communities, signal to them that you're part of crypto, and then for these brands then to eventually start their own. So you don't have to go from 0 to 100 like on day one. You can slowly ramp up into it.
Great. I mean, I love the fact that like you guys are empowering a lot of communities out there, and like these masterminds are like that really needs like help and tools to like maintain their community. And I really like the part where in February 2023, CollabLand created a 7-part documentary series spotlighting some of the most important Web3 artists and thinkers out there, including Ruck Radio, Pizza DAO, Aokiverse, Asia Ruby, and Thank You X. And I really want you guys to talk about like why create well, it's like creating a community within the community, right? Like how do you empower these people, and like what's the relationship with them?
Yeah, well, the idea around, and I know James spoke a little bit about how our marketing efforts really, we didn't have to have marketing efforts because it was purely organic and purely word of mouth. And so for us, we're like, gosh, instead of having a marketing budget and spending it on telling more people about CollabLand, why don't we use this opportunity to be ambassadors of crypto communities and ambassadors of crypto art, crypto artists, crypto founders, and let them tell their story. And so we produced this series of 7. It was 5 and then became 6 and then became 7. 7 short documentaries. They're just 5 to 7 minutes each. They're an opportunity for people to get a taste of what we really are, what crypto really is. Mainstream media is going to tell you all the horror stories. It's going to tell you everything that's awful about crypto. It's going to talk about all the scammers and all the greed and all the people that are losing money and how it's all a big Ponzi scheme and a shill, or, all the stuff we've all heard. It's all a scam. It's not a real business, everything. And so we really wanted to take our special position of having relationships with so many different communities and highlight some of them. We only got 7 here, but we have plans on doing a season 2 and probably a season 3 and keep going. Because not only is the work, of course, important, all of this is important. The work is important, the relationships are important, but also, and like I mentioned kind of at the beginning, we all have a responsibility. If we believe this is important, if we believe this is the future, then we have a responsibility to share what we're doing here with the rest of the world. And so, yes, it's crap that we get such a bad rap. We deserve it, some of it, of course, but it's not the whole story. And so this is kind of our bit of taking responsibility, sharing some of the people that we get to meet and know and tell their story of how they've been able to change their lives through innovation in the blockchain and change the people around their lives and what they're doing. That's kind of going to bring in the new usher in the new world of culture and the way people talk and the way people think. Like, we're everything. Crypto isn't just one thing, it's everything.
Yeah, it's definitely a culture, right? Like it's also part of like being able to lead with like content as well, like getting more people. I feel like we don't advertise enough like to tell people like what's going on here, like yeah.
That's
So
right.
what's going to happen in the next round for you guys? Like what's looking in the future for you guys like?
Boy, we have a lot of plans for the future. I will say that, but they
James like take turns.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, so please rein me in if I get a bit too technical, but sure. We have built this like rules engine, if you will, right? Based off of what you hold in your wallet. And so the simple rule is if you hold an asset, you get to be part of a Telegram or Discord group. If you no longer hold that asset, you get removed. There's a bunch of other things that we can employ in terms of rules, whether it's access to an e-commerce site, access to a website. Like the rules of owning a digital asset, a crypto asset, can be extended beyond just chat. So we're going to explore that. So that's one. But what we've seen in our data is that we have a lot of communities and a lot of members of those communities connect a wallet, but a vast majority are kind of on the sidelines. So they're in like a general channel. They're not in a gated channel. So they know how to join a Discord or a Telegram, but they don't know how to do crypto. And it's just this huge barrier for the mass audience. And so our next phase of CollabLand is we are going to deploy wallets, or what we're calling smart accounts, to every single person that is in a CollabLand Telegram or Discord. And that's about 100 million people. And so we think that this will begin to activate them. And there's a lot of different things that we are doing. I can go into the details, but what's really taken the imagination, I would say, of the Ethereum ecosystem is account abstraction. And that's what we're going to do at scale. So now we not only will be a rules engine for what you hold, but we can now be a rules engine for the transactions that you're making. And so we have huge plans. We have this big initiative that we are working on and we're launching soon, which is called the member portal. And there's going to be a huge unlock. So not only will you be able to get into a Discord or Telegram channel based off of the assets that you hold, you'll be able to, in a self-sovereign, non-custodial way, be able to make transactions or do transactions without having to leave Telegram or Discord. We really believe this is going to be the next unlock.
Wow. What about you guys, Angeli? Like, what's next for your part? Like, what's the community side of it?
Yeah, well, this is, we started with an admin portal. We have an admin portal that's for all of our admins, where if you download the CollabLand bot, you can also one-click install many different types of mini apps, POAP, Snapshot, AI, all different types of things. Huddle just joined. Oh, shoot, my computer is going to die. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Real life, right?
Okay.
But now with this member portal, we're going to be able to activate, again, like James said, all the members that we have. But on the community side, we're going to keep growing that. We're going to keep growing the MiniApp Marketplace that we have right now. Like I said, we have about a dozen mini apps in there already. We're continuing to inspire and trying to attract developers who are building in the crypto community space. The whole idea with this marketplace is that CollabLand, we don't have to build everything. We don't want to build everything. Like, we want to be a distribution platform for developers that are out there. It's extremely difficult to get distribution, and we're keenly aware of that. And so what we can do with our position right now is, if you have an idea for an app that could be useful for crypto communities, then you can build in our MiniApp Marketplace, and admins can one-click install your mini app. So they get your name recognition, you get users, and truly what you want is, you want people to give you feedback. You know, even if someone says, I hate your guts and this is why I hate it, like, that's worth so much more than people not using your product at all. And so for us, we want to give developers an opportunity to have a distribution platform into any CollabLand server, and also have the opportunity to get feedback on their product, because that's the most important thing. So admins also benefit from that, of course, because all of the new little fun projects that come out, games, and we have like a meme market. It's like a meme making game. Like, we have all kinds of fun stuff that you can download. And so whatever your community needs, we want to be there to service you, and you should be able to customize that experience any way you want. So that's what's happening with CollabLand, and we are just inviting as many people as possible. And if you're a CollabLand admin, get into the Discord, and we have a channel where you can actually put your suggestions. So like, Karen, if there's something you want, right? Like, if you want a, I don't know, rainbow making app or something, who the heck knows? I'm just pretending, like, I don't know. I can already imagine it. You get lots of members together and make a rainbow. Anyway, but if you want something, you should come into the CollabLand Discord server. It's just CollabLand, vanity URL. And you can, in the chat, you can put your request. And so there are developers looking at that list. And so you could have a developer pick it up and want to make it. So there are people that are excited about building right now, but because of the lack of money, lack of funds, lack of interest, it's like they really want to build for a need. You know, no one wants to build in the dark anymore, and they shouldn't. They should build for what people need. And I can tell you, at least in the CollabLand ecosystem, people will tell you what you need, what they need. They'll tell you. That's really how we grew, is through our support team and through people telling us what they didn't like. Like, that's where you really learn, and that's where you get to grow. So That's where we are with communities, and we're very excited about that. So it's not only admins that we're serving, but it's also developers. So developers that are out there listening, we've got the admin portal if you want to build apps for communities, and we also have the member portal coming up if you want to build apps for individual members.
Right. Well, like I have a tough question though, because like is Discord the best place for Web3? Like what do you guys think about like community, like basically this Web3 community thing? It's so fragmented, like you're constantly on it, you're 24 hours in it. Like what's like I mean that must be a challenge for you guys when you're thinking about solution and empowering the community, right? So like what's the I think James would have some answers for that.
Yeah. So we started on Telegram at first, and with Telegram, the way that they have their channels, this is before their latest topics. So this was like 3 years ago. You had this one channel, right? And so when you get like 2,000 or 3,000 people in a single Telegram channel, you just see text flying, right? And so there was no real Web3 in Discord. We actually, because of CollabLand, brought a lot of communities to Discord. I used to work in gaming. I know Jason Citron, the CEO. We actually worked with the same studio a long time ago. And so I was like, hey, Jason, like if we move over to Discord, is that okay? And he's like, yeah, sure. Come on over. We'll help you. And so we really kind of got our legs or grew in Discord. But ultimately, I think when you think about having a shared digital asset, what I really hope for in the future is that these communities will be able to collectivize and collaborate. And if they say, hey, we don't like what's happening on X platform, we're going to go to Y platform. These platforms will now go, wait a second, we have to listen to these people, else collectively, because they have a shared asset, will move over to another platform. So in the future, is there going to be, with the Apple Vision Pro, some type of augmented reality metaverse platform? Yeah, there's going to be, right? And we'll be there as well. So whatever platform comes out, we've worked with and are in the process of working with several different platforms and launching on different platforms. We want the tokenized communities to be there. And hopefully there'll be this inflection point, instead of the platforms having to dictate what the kind of policies are, right? Without having any regard to these communities. Communities can say, and they can band together because they have this incentive to be together. They can actually turn the tide, hopefully, and dictate and say, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, whatever the issue is on that platform, we're just going to move to another one. And we at CollabLand want to facilitate that. This is how we believe we can level the playing field here. And that's really what we're striving to do. So we're going to be on all platforms in the future.
Right. Wow. I mean, like, yeah, who knows? Like, there might be another, maybe it's less of a Discord or maybe more of a, X, it's basically constantly evolving, right? Like communities like just goes everywhere. And I think like that's great that CollabLand is a tool that empowers that too. And here's another tough question from me is that like, okay, working as a couple, right? Like, and I talked about like balancing life and as a degen or as like someone in Web3, like you don't sleep, right? So what's that like in a relationship? Like what's that working in the same project together as a couple and really working in the same household as well?
Well, I'll start, and this might sound like it's a little bit pandering, but honestly, and kind of, I really believe this is a dream come true for me. I will say that. I don't know about Anjali, but for me, this is like amazing. Like being able to have my kind of work tech brain and leading an organization and company, and then being able to do that with my partner, my life partner. I think that there is something kind of magical about that. And I know that there are some startups that have partner co-founders. We have a third co-founder, Raymond Fang, and he is equal in terms of the contribution, but it's different. I think that for Anjali and myself, really there is this extension and passion of what we believe in and our values, being able to be fully expressive, fully expressed, not in our own relationship, but within our organization and then within the industry ourselves. So I was talking to an investor today. We went out and had like tea with an investor. And I told him, it was like, CollabLand is really kind of an extension of our relationship then to the company and to the whole ecosystem. So it's like, parenting on steroids, because we are hoping to lead in a values aligned, a values driven way, the ecosystem. And that funnily comes back to just like how we are as, in a relationship as partners and as parents. So I know maybe I'm getting too much into dad mode here. So
No,
no, but this is kind of how I feel, and I just want to lead with that. But I should.
wow. What about you, Anjali?
Gosh, how do I follow that? James Young, what are you doing? That was too much. Oh boy, it's a really tough one. But I'll say what makes it easier is similar to what James said. What makes it hard is that, of course, when we were in separate careers or doing different things, one of us could pull the other away, and the other person could be completely like in another world where he can't even tell me his problem because I won't understand it. And so there's no point in even thinking about it. And he's not going to want to know what my problem was that day because I know how busy he was or whatever it is. And so we would take time with our kids or with each other that was really completely free of working, not free of stress, but free of working. And now we don't have that. But I will say, because the work and the business and our team and each other, it is such a huge part of what we're doing with the minutes of our life. Like, this is our life. And so there isn't a need for a separation the way there used to be. Now it's like we're living, like James said, we're really living a dream. Like the fact that you even want to have me on a Twitter Spaces right now and listen to what I have to say is a dream. Like the fact that I get to have any kind of impact and any kind of influence on anybody anywhere is a dream, and truly feels incredibly, I'm grateful for it and humbled for it every single time. So I don't need a break from it in the same way, but I'll tell you, James and I do go to marriage counseling. I don't want it to be a secret, and I absolutely want to normalize that. We do go to marriage counseling. We actually graduated from marriage counseling, and we're like, what? Why are we graduating? We used to go, as soon as we started working together, we started marriage counseling because James and I have been together since August of 1995. Our relationship, I will at least say, cheesy for everybody, and I don't know, I'm not a good example for women listening, but like our relationship has been the most important thing to me, like since the day I met him. And so working together wasn't going to be something that I was going to risk our marriage or our relationship or the quality of our marriage. I was not willing to let that go, sacrifice that for anything, not crypto, not a business, not money, not anything. And so we started going to marriage counseling the very week we started working together for 2 hours every Sunday, where we just made sure that we connected and we talked about any issues. Like in the beginning, I would get frustrated a lot. I'd be like, you talked over me, you cut me off. Or did you hear the way that man spoke to me and you didn't stand up for me? Or did you see how I was dismissed by this person or that person? I don't know. All kinds of stuff come up when you are partners and in work together. So we got all of that out. And then, gosh, it's almost been a year since we graduated from counseling. Our marriage counselor told us we graduated. So now James and I are part of a group therapy with other couples who have been together 25 years plus. And it's wonderful. We only go once a month now instead of 2 hours a week. But it's wonderful. We highly recommend it. Highly recommend therapy, highly recommend really being on your own personal journey to learn about yourself, because that really what it all comes down to is ourselves, and really not about each other. And it's just a really beautiful thing. So for us, it's like our relationship is the most important thing to me. I just don't know how else to, I don't know. I can't pretend otherwise. It's the truth.
That's amazing, amazing. It's like having an NFT family. Like it's a family business, right? Like and I'm sure like your kids are influenced by that as well, right? Like how do you guys like talk to your kids about it? Like do they are they supportive or do they understand what's going on? Like do they know what the business is all about?
It was really interesting because it's kind of this like universal fact, I think, that especially with teenagers, whatever your parents do, no matter how cool it could be, it's going to be totally uncool. So it was like, my son especially, like, dad, like people don't like NFTs. Like that's so over. And then recently he's like, hey, can you help me start my own NFT project? We're like, yes.
Oh yeah.
Finally, you're coming back into the fold. So it's very interesting. And, I think that being on the forefront of technology and being a parent, especially to teenagers, trying to think about, okay, well, what is a world going to look like in 5 or 10 years? And it's really almost impossible to imagine because it feels like we're on this like exponential curve when it comes to like living online. Like living online is almost as important, if not more important than living offline. So like having assets, and then when you go like, what's going on with AI? You're like, what is this world going to be in a few years? And so it's really trying to expose them, but not push them in a way that helps prepare them for the future. That's what I think of as a father. And so, with my daughter, she's very creative. She's a singer. I was like originally like, hey, what do you want to do an NFT thing? Do you, because I guess we fall into the kind of stereotypical, like all the kids want to be influencers now kind of thing. And so we're like,
Creators.
okay, well, that's great. But like start being an influencer on something that is so brand new that when it becomes mainstream and normal, you will be the expert. So it's just like riding that wave. So trying to find a way for her to express her creativity by doing like generative AI things because she's really into art. And so instead of just saying, hey, let's oppose AI because that's not real art, as an artist, how can you be empowered by using AI? And then when you have AI, how do you use crypto together? So just letting her explore, let her be herself, but kind of push her toward this kind of future that's unknown because I don't know if the quote unquote traditional path in 5 or 10 years, like how useful that will be. So that kind of is what I always am thinking in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I mean, like none of us prepared for this, like when we're in school, right? Like this job right now, it's completely different, like a different world. Like speaking about parenting, I want to bring in another dad of this community. I want to bring in Ray and like let's have him join this parenting talk right now. Hi, Ray. Seems like this founder to founder talk just becomes like a parenting
It's like father to father. It's not
Yes.
founder to founder.
Yes,
Right? Also father
exactly.
to mother. Right? I think
Ray,
first of all, I think really great to have you guys here.
yeah.
I mean, the first board that we install, right, when we started MemeLand Discord is actually CollabLand. Right? I think that's how OG you guys are. Right? So I'm really glad to talk to you guys. Right? Yeah, but back to the topic that Karen was mentioning. Right? When you talk about being a parent, right, and also running a community focused projects, I think that shares a lot of similarities. Right? Because on one hand, you feel like you have to lead the way, right? You have to share the vision, share the direction, so that you make sure that the product becomes good, right, or gets better every single day, right? But meanwhile, the community also has their own free will in a way, right? So how can you, on one hand, because I read some of James' posts about decentralization and stuff like that, right? How can you, on one hand, give enough freedom to the kids, right, to the community on one hand, but also make sure that they don't become a bad guy on the other hand?
Yeah, I think, when Anjali was talking about us going into marriage counseling, it's like, and maybe this is a parenting style, maybe this is not universal, but you got to keep it real, right? I think that like having a community and is this building in public kind of persona where you not only say the good things, you say the bad things, and you're like, okay, like, what did we do wrong? What's going on? And being able to process that as a group, and then people will come and go. But I think really it's just leading with your values. And if you lead with your values, people will just kind of come out of the woodwork. I've been really thinking about, like, and I don't want to get too, I don't know, woo woo here, but like, when we live our lives online, we're just like these two-dimensional pictures on a screen. And what we're really transmitting is like energy. Like this energy is going halfway across the world. You guys are picking it up, and you are vibing, maybe not vibing, and you're turning this energy, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's going to turn itself into something else, right? And so people that like your energy are going to find out about you. And the internet is this global medium, right? And so building the community is building out and putting out the vibes that you want to see in the world reflect back to you. And it's just growing, learning, making mistakes, and just being real, I think, is kind of how you go from like a baby community where you have to change the diapers and do everything, to maybe a toddler, to an adolescent, to a teenager, to that point where you let community members kind of take control until they're full adults, and then they're actually starting their own communities, right? And so you'll be like the grandfather of some other community. And you see this generational aspect happening in communities as well, because these digital families, these digital communities, they happen a lot faster than the IRL ones, I think. So it's not very different than parenting, I would actually say, but it's just at a different scale.
I think that's true. And I wonder if that's kind of why we made the movies, because the movies, Let's Form Group, are kind of like our baby videos or something. Like
proud kids.
Yeah, like we think of them as like extensions of our family. So we're like, let's make movies about them because we want to show them off. That's really funny. Gosh, I hope they don't grow up and become resentful of us. But
There are a version of home videos, right? When you come over, look at the baby pictures. These are our baby pictures, our family album.
For sure. Oh my God, it's truly, it is true, as cheesy as that sounds. But I think that's what makes it possible for us to do, honestly, because you're a parent, like you'll do anything for your family. You'll do anything for your kids, no matter how tired you are, how grumpy you are, how maybe your stomach hurts and your head hurts and you're uncomfortable. But if your children need something, you're going to get up and do it. And I wonder if that kind of crazy thinking is what has kept us doing this 3.5 years. And we don't have an end in sight, because it just feels like it feels like there's just more and more for it to come for this, for good or bad.
Yeah, I think number one, check out the movies, right? Check out the videos, right? Because I check it out on YouTube. Really, really well produced, right? High quality interview, high quality guests. Right? I think it's worth watching it, all right? Watching them, not it, right? I think another thing that after running NiGet for 15 years, right, and also running MiniApp for about 2 years, I think echoes a lot of what you guys share, right? Because on one hand, Web3, the speed is actually much faster, right, than Web2, right? And also for the part that is building in public, I think that part is also more challenging, right? That's why I love Web2 brands, no matter how big they are, right? They are actually having a hard time in Web3 because traditionally, right, it's more like you work behind the scene and then you build something, right, and then you test it out, right? If, for example, like a game, right, you test it out, you look at data, right? You actually don't have to tell people what you want to build, right? Because what you want to build is the feature, right? So that you can test it out, look at the data. Meanwhile, for Web3, I think the good and also the bad is you actually can meet your users, can meet your holders, right, directly, so that they can tell you what to do. Right. For example, even like CollabLand, right? You guys have a DAO and stuff like that, right? I think that part is actually very interactive, right? And just like kids, right? Just like family, right? They can flow you or they can drown you, right? They can sink you, right? So I think that part is actually very, very interesting for me, even though I've been in the so-called community heavy product business, right, for a long time. And I want to share one discussion I had with a friend D Guts when I was in Singapore. I after the GM show that we did with him and also Kevin, basically he came to me and said, "Hey Ray, I'm trying something new these days, right? Because he's like a guy who loves experiment and stuff. Instead of being kind of like aggressive, right, on social media, on Discord, on Twitter, right, I want to show love, right? I want to tell people that I love them, right? Because it's not just about how you communicate; it's also about the way that you make people feel." Right? Because just like kids, right? Just like, I mean, community is like a relationship, right? Of course, you can answer the questions, but whether you answer in a passive aggressive way or answer in a very positive way, right? I think that makes a difference. So he said that, hey, as a founder, as a leader, most people, it's more like in a very argument. It's like combat mode, right? When you go to Discord, when you go to Twitter, hey, I want to defend myself, I want to defend my project. Because honestly, the people who spend a lot of time on Discord or Telegram or Twitter, right, usually they're complaining, right? It's not like, okay, hey, James and Angeli, I love your product. Usually it's not there. Yeah, usually it's like, hey, you suck, right? This doesn't work, right? It's always kind of like that, right? So he said that, okay, instead of just replying to them, you care about them, right? You tell them that you love them, right? So that they feel like, okay, you actually care, and the community will also mimic what you do, right? That's why he thinks that, oh, if I show more love, maybe the community will show more love, right? And then that was like epiphany for me. I mean, I know that community building is like relationship building, right? But sometimes, somehow, right, when you are facing the criticism, it's hard to say that, okay, I still love you, right? So I think that part actually echoes a lot of what I just discovered with some other NFT founders.
Yeah.
But talking, James,
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I think in Web3 there's a different kind of vulnerability, right? And it's really interesting because why don't you have that in Web2? Well, in Web2, you don't have your skin in the game. Web3, you actually have a shared asset. And so the feelings come out. I think also we are kind of generationally in a place where we're really used to being online, but we don't have much history for that. So a community is really being alone together. And so it's like you're kind of individual sitting behind your computer. You're being able to say kind of all the real thoughts or these things, but you don't see physically everyone else in the community. They're just like line items, right? Like in a chat. And so you have to imagine that. And I think we're learning how to do that because we're in Web3 taking a transactional relationship, one that's kind of like, hey, I bought this thing and now I'm in this group. And you're converting that into this like trust-based relationship. And so how do you turn transactional relationships into trust-based ones? And what are the lines in between? And this is what we're really figuring out right now. And like being adversarial, combative, aggressive in the Web2 style, you didn't have anything to lose. So you can just like do whatever. But like now that you have this, kind of shared asset that you both and the whole community owns together, you kind of are like ride or die together, right? And so people are like, okay, I'm going to bounce or I'm going to double down. And so there's a different incentive, I think. And we're just learning about that. And I think we need more words for the term trust and like the nuances of what's happening online. And this is the time and that part of this, I guess, kind of evolutionary process of community building, because online communities are very strong and very powerful, right? And so, back in the day, I don't know, like the 50s, 60s, you had activist groups and protests and all of that, and you still have that now. But being online and being able to dictate where, depending on the group that you're in and the treasury that you have, you can make huge impact just sitting by yourself behind a computer. So we're still kind of coming to terms with that collectively. So I think it's gonna evolve. And in technology, especially, I'll say this again, with AI, who knows what's going to happen? Is it going to be that we're mediated between an AI filter to help like say the things and we don't even have to speak the same language, but to express it and be able to have an AI mediator communicate what you're saying in a way that I will be most impacted? and the AI knows you really well too. So can we have more meaningful relationships mediated by technology? I don't know, maybe. Or it can go like the kind of doom and gloom scenario too, where the AI takes over. So it's really like, this is the critical time for us to kind of all negotiate that and figure that out together.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more like a realist, right? And on one hand, I feel like it's not as good as people think, but it's also not as bad as people imagine, right? So I feel like AI or NFT or Web3 is kind of like that, right? It's just that after working in tech industry for a long time, right? I mean, it's so obvious that NFT or Web3 or crypto or tokenization, I think they are so powerful, right? Because they make a lot of things that was impossible before right now is possible, right? Because you can verify it, you can kind of like own it, right? So I think a lot of the Web3, I would say, principles, I think that makes a lot of sense to me as a founder, right? As an entrepreneur, and I think even as a holder, as a participant in the space, right? For us, it's social media, right? For you guys, maybe it's like a tool, right? It's more like a communities tool and stuff like that, right? And it reminds me of an old article that I read a long time ago, from the book called "Anything You Want" by Derek Sivers, right? The article is the topic is called "A Real Person, a Lot Like You." I think most of the time for online community, we forget that the guys who reply to us are actually a real person behind the screen. Right? That's why you will not say things that you say to that person if you remember that. Because people are so mean sometimes, right? On Discord, on Twitter. It's almost like, hey, what did I do? Did I hurt you? Did I kill your parents? Right? I'm not
The
Joker, right?
cyberbullying.
Yeah, something like that, right? It's like by default, the default mode is like online bullying, right? Meanwhile, when you are in person, for example, I met some of our holders in person. They're super nice, right? Online, super aggressive, right? It's almost like they have like two personalities. So I think that part is the fun part, but also a challenge for us, right? It's not all diamonds and roses every day, all day, right? Building communities, right? So I want to ask the question: what's the worst thing about a community that you have seen so far? Yeah, you don't have to name any community, right? But what is the worst thing of running a community heavy tools and products that you see? Yeah.
Gosh, that's a really hard one because it really comes down to ill-equipped moderators. I will say good moderators, experienced moderators can handle really anything. And when you have ill-equipped moderators where you are underappreciating them, underpaying them, maybe not supporting them, and they're not resourced with how to handle a situation, I've seen things go ugly very quickly. So I would say the worst things that I've seen are communities that either do not support their moderators, don't have enough moderators, are leaving communities to fend for themselves, where the people that are the few community members that are supportive end up getting totally beat up on, and there's no one to help them. Like, that's not fair and that's not okay. And so that's, I would say, the most egregious, where I feel like I should jump in and be like, wait a minute, even though it's not my community, I'm also just a holder. I would say that's the worst I've seen. And it's because people don't respect moderators and respect admin teams in the same way we don't respect teachers and we don't respect nurses. Like, there are other, like, even when COVID happened, everyone's like, respect the nurses, like, you had to say that because people don't. And nurses were dying every day, thousands at a time. So, like, we don't respect service people that are in service. I will tell you, because James and I are also in service. People do not respect that either. You just treat people who are in service very poorly. And if you also, as the project owner, don't give respect and instill that respect and instill resources for your admin and mod team to handle anything, then you're really hurting everybody. So I would say that that's what I've seen that's been awful. Not picking on anybody individually, but just not having community teams, admin and mod teams that are respected and treated well within the organization.
Yeah, I think that echoes like teachers, right? I mean, I respect some teachers, not all of them, Right. I think we were all in schools, right? You know that some teachers, they're really great, right? They can change life, right? Some teachers, they're really bad. They also can change life, but in the other direction, right? So I feel like it's more about how can we create a good, I would say, environment, and also a good incentive system, right? To hire the best people that we can find, right? To join us as a moderator, as a community team, right? Because at the end of the day, they have to love what you're doing first, right? And I think in Web3, a lot of the moderators, they join your project just because they want to get allowed list in the past, right? Just want to use your community's name, right, to get more benefit for themselves, right? Instead of, okay, I just want to help, right, curate or moderate a better community. So I think the intention also matters, right? Yeah, but I think I totally agree with you. I think at the end of the day, communities are people, right? If you can have like good leaders, right, or good, I would say, middle leaders, right, I think that helps a lot because it can guide the direction of the community. If the moderators are very aggressive, of course, the community will be aggressive as well, right? So I think that's something that, yeah, is a great advice. Yeah. How about you, James? Yeah.
I really think that if we can understand organizationally and make communities legitimate, this is how you scale leadership. You take the chaos and you have those few people in the midst of the chaos just rise to the occasion. And this is no better setting than communities to like see and understand future leaders. And I think that's going to be super important, as we move forward, especially, in this kind of global community that we're building. So I really think that we got to embrace the vulnerability, embrace the chaos. And as humans, I have confidence that groups of humans, ones that are based in values, will be able to rise to the occasion. And what's really exciting, I guess this is the dad in me again, is like watching children grow and letting them be, self-sufficient and empowered, and they'll impress you and they'll like surprise you, in good and bad ways. And it's like trying to learn from the mistakes and really cultivate and, focus on the positive things. And I think that we're going to see like super organized communities that are fully embracing of the chaos, and you'll see people just kind of rise to the occasion and shine. That's what I look for when I go to these different communities, right? Who's kind of against the grain and like standing up for others, like Anjali was saying, in terms of moderators, and those become the leaders of the communities and they rise up pretty quickly. I've actually seen that. I won't name any specific NFT projects, but see them actually go from the edge of the community to be an admin to then being like core within the organization of the corporation that spun out that community. So I've seen it firsthand, and it's just amazing to see. And there's no faster path, I would say, no faster path to promotion and to learning how to lead than through online communities.
I can add a little personal example for that is our comms team, who works directly with me. She started in CryptoKitties back in 2017 as part of the community, and then grew into an employee position, a community admin at first, and then got hired by the company. And she was working for a company that CollabLand interacted with. And so on the calls, like we would have monthly calls, status calls, because it's a high profile community, and she would be on those status calls. And so when she got, they had a layoff with lots of different people at her company, James said, like, did you see who got laid off? Like, that's Candy. I mean, we can name her. It's Candy. We love you, Candy. Because she'll be listening to this later. But he said, did you see Candy got laid off? Like, let's call her. And so it's like, she's someone that started as a community member, just a holder of CryptoKitties, that now is like, has obviously is a really special part of our team here, but also within her own organization had grown to the point where she was representing the company to outside partners like us. So yeah, as far as like scaling leadership and opportunity, that's really what's the most special thing really about all of this. We've seen it and watched the movies too. Like we've seen people being able to change their lives. The opportunities that we have available now are so special. Don't waste them. Even though it's a bear market, everyone that's listening, like I know you're down about it being a bear market, but like work on your reputation, work on your resume building right now, work on your relationships right now, because this is coming back. It's inevitable and you want to be ready for it. So don't think of the bear market as a time for doom and gloom. Think about it for the real believers to meet each other and get to know each other and build relationships with each other. And we can talk about that a whole other hour about how really CollabLand has benefited so much from relationships that we had in the last bear market.
Yep. I think just like Agent K in MIP said, right? The person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it, right? I think somehow that's people resonate with that because people assume that communities and a group of people are kind of like that, right? And I think it's partly true, right? It's just that I feel like in Web3, I think at least in most of the projects, or not just NFT, maybe like token projects, I think the goal on one hand is kind of like more straightforward. Basically, you have a shared vision, right? Shared a mission. That's why you join this community, right? For example, like for Memeland, right? We want to work on SocialFi, right? And for Azuki, they want to become like the Web3 IP brand, right? For Board 8, right now they're working on GameFi and stuff like that. I think basically we use the mission and vision, right, to attract the people who believe in it, and then we work towards it together. I think that helps a lot, right? Because unlike in real world, right, somehow people all have their own agendas, right, and they have very different goals. I think for communities, I think somehow the goal is quite common, right? It's shared in a way that, hey, on one hand, I want the price to go up, right? On the other hand, I also want to have fun, right? So I think that part helps to form a better community. But this is also another question, right? Do you think that, for example, like CollabLand, right, or other NFT project, do you think that ownership, right, should only be reflected by how many NFTs or how many tokens that you own? Because I've seen from firsthand that the biggest holders, right, in numbers, doesn't mean the best holders, right? There are a lot of holders. They only hold 1 or 2 of your NFT, but they're so constructive, right? They help so much, right? Meanwhile, a lot of the so-called quote-unquote whales, right? They have money, right? But rich people doesn't mean good people, right? How do you kind of like, can you handle that on CollabLand, right? So that as an admin, right, as a founder, right, we can also reward the people who actually contribute, not just money, right, but also effort.
For sure. I'm going to just briefly speak to that, James, because we have similar situation. We have lots of whales, but we also have committed community members, DAO members. We have DAOist meetings frequently, weekly or every other week, where we think about the problems that we're having in the DAO. And a lot of the goals and the direction of the DAO is decided in those small group meetings. Everyone's allowed, but you don't see the whales in those meetings, right? And so really the people that may have 10 or 20 or 100 tokens versus 5 million are still having impact. Next, we have delegates. And so if you are someone who is outspoken in the community, has a lot of good opinions, people can delegate their voting power to you. And that gives you the same amount of power as a whale. So if you're active and you're interested and you're involved, whales don't even always vote, right? So it's like you're going to be able to have that kind of impact and influence. So there's many, at least with CollabLand, there are those 2 opportunities to join. Like right now, we're going to have a small grant council. I'm sorry, that was a mouthful. Small grant council, and it's going to be appointed. And so we're going to appoint our first version, and then the next ones will be voted in by the DAO. But it's like, if you've been a member, you get to be on the small grant council. And we're going to have 5 million collab token that's going to be able to be used to give out as contributions and for people that want to do projects and people want to do work. So it's like, you do get that influence. There are non-DAO decisions, like the creation of a small grant council that is able to have influence, everyday influence in people's lives, even if you're not the biggest token holder. James, do you want to speak to this too?
Yeah, this whole concept of a DAO and like a shared treasury and all of this online, and you making these huge decisions and having these relationships with people that you don't see in real life. It's kind of, we're still evolving, right? And I think having this sense of fun and curiosity and like childlike wonder is going to really move things forward, because there will be a playbook. There will be kind of steps that get formalized. And we're just in this magic time right now that we get to mold that. We get to like put our little dent in the universe in this time and place, because people are going to look at our actions and say, okay, well, these are good, these are bad, we want to take them and not. So I think right now is this like really molding of the clay when it comes to communities, shared asset ownership. How do you recognize and how do you build reputation? So I would encourage everyone to like participate. And sometimes, because it's a contact sport, you may hurt your elbow or you may get injured, but that's part of it. And, just being able to be real and honest and open with this one life that we have, I think is very scary, but very rewarding, because you don't grow when you're just comfortable. So you kind of have to have that kind of spirit of like, let's figure it out and hustle and like have the unknown. But I think that is part of the adventure.
I'm going to add one thing, which is the aggressiveness of some whales. I will tell you from my NFT artist friends and NFT commuter friends, it can get bad. And so we're not saying that it isn't really shitty sometimes. It is. Like sometimes when you have your biggest holders say, I'm not happy about this or I'm not happy about that, it's like, okay, like I'm trying to do my best here. Like I have to listen because you have the most tokens, but this is hard for me. Or it just, that I would say is really, really difficult. And I don't want to ignore the fact that there's real stress and challenges that go along with it. It could either be that your biggest token holders are your number one advocates, which makes it amazing, but then you can have situations, especially in the bear market, where people are like, and this is not us specifically, but I bought your NFT for $20 and now it's worth, or 20 ETH and now it's worth 0.005 ETH, and like that's your fault. Like that happens and that's rough. And until we get, I don't know, we make some real changes as a culture, like to try to say like, look, this is what we're really trying to do here. Like you're making the decision to buy this. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't ask you. I didn't force you to buy it. You chose it. Personal responsibility. Until we start like making that more aware, trying to create the culture that we want to see again of personal responsibility. There are a lot of artists that struggle with this. There are a lot of people that maybe were not prepared for this. The traditional art world, you don't have people coming at you saying, I bought this for $1 million and now it's only worth 50 cents. Like that doesn't happen. And so a lot of our tender, special artists are really struggling when that sort of thing happens. And I want to make sure we address that because it's very real and people need to hear about that.
Yeah, I think if that happens in real life, I think auction house like Christie and stuff, right? There will be protests there every single day. Yeah, so I think I think that part is something that is good and bad, right? Of Web3 is it's about money, right? But also it's too much about money, right? I think there are actually a lot of value getting created, right? But right now people only talk about prices, right? I think a part of it is the team's fault, right? Because at the end of the day, other than prices, what are the things that we can talk about right now, right? So I think as a team, we just have to continue to deliver, right? To make sure that, okay, there are other stuff that people can talk about. Maybe you create a great community. Maybe you create a great product, right? It's not just speculation. It's not just rumors, right? I think that part is something that we need to do, right? That's also the reason why we only invite founders and builders, right, to our show, because we are not here to talk about prices. We talk about building. And I think, to be totally selfish, right? I make use of this show to make so many cool founders, because as a founder, I actually don't really care about our community that much, right? Because this is so wrong, right? But I really, really believe that if I continue to do better to improve myself, I think the community will start to learn about it, right? And there will be like a natural selection, because I don't have to make the whole world love me, right? We just have to make the people who believe in what we are doing, they continue to believe in us, and then we deliver for them. It's almost like you just have to kind of like love the people who love you, right? Of course, it would be better if you can love the people who hate you, right? But I'm not Jesus, right? So I think it's hard for me at this point, right? But I think that's why we want to support the creators, support the builders, so that it's almost like, okay, when the market is bad, and we are still building, right? These are the guys that are important, right? When the bull market comes again, if it comes again, right? And of course, personally, I think that it will come, right? But I don't know when, right? So let's change the topic a little bit, right? Because I know the time is running out. I know that, Angela, you just went to Singapore for Token 2049, right? Saw it on your Twitter, right? What do you think about building in Asia? Or what do you think about the Asian market, right, in general? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me super envious that I don't live there. I wish I did. Like I got to go to Tokyo for WebEx Asia over the summer, and then again to Token 2049. Like the energy, the excitement, is so palpable, and also just the history of the culture itself. Like Asian cultures are so rich with tradition and history, and the blending of that, of this new type of technology, Web3, and the new culture we're all building on a global scale, mixed with like tradition, is just such a beautiful thing that I feel super envious that I don't get to be there. Also, of course, regulatory issues, like they're kind of looking at us in the US and saying like, what are you doing? Like you have an advantage here and you're just like shooting yourself in the foot while they're all just like taking off at high speed. So I am envious on multiple levels, I would say, that I don't live in Asia. So I hope that's okay to say, James, but it's true. I came home telling him the same thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm old enough to have gone through like Web 1 and Web 2, and now with Web 3. And a lot of the innovation initially, when it comes from a technology perspective, and this is in the context of history and time, like in the West, here in like the US, it was like really predominant. What we're seeing here, and you can kind of see a shift, I think one of the biggest telltale signs is when like, Instagram starts to become more like TikTok. You see this global cultural influence shift. It's undeniable, right? And so I think in Web3, you still have the tech kind of happening in the West, but like it's like you're just waiting for that tsunami in Asia, I think, to get unleashed. So maybe it takes a little bit longer for it to kind of rev up, but when it's revving up, I think it's going to be a huge or a bigger shift. And I think that there are just macroeconomics as well, because crypto undeniably, like you were saying, is tied to money. I think it's like money is the first killer app of crypto. Coordination is kind of the superset of that, where like crypto is actually as relevant as the invention of time. So it's a coordination mechanism. Money helps with some aspects of coordination. And so I think we're just at the very beginning. And I guess I would say I'm hopeful, and I look to Asia as kind of where things are going to start happening there.
Well, also I want to say, like, it's really interesting because James and I are both children of Asian immigrants to the US. So my parents are Indian immigrants, right? So they emigrated from India in the late 60s, early 70s. And James's parents emigrated from South Korea in the early 60s. And so that was a time where the feeling was, there's no opportunity here in our home country, and we want to come to the US to explore opportunity. And it's really quite beautiful that within one generation, it's already flipped back, right? Where we look at Asia and say, oh man, I want to move to Korea, or I want to move to Singapore. Like we're already feeling that. And our parents are like, what is happening? Like just being able to see that in their lifetime and it flipping in our lifetime is really kind of beautiful.
Yep, I think that's why when I watch Fresh Off the Boat, I find some funny part at it. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I still live in Hong Kong, right? But I always kind of like admire Western culture and stuff like that. And the good thing about being Hong Kong guys, I can read Chinese, I can also read English, right? So somehow it's like a clash of two cultural values, right? And I think learning about that and seeing. These days, right, when people talk about the future, they usually talk about Asia, right? I'm not saying that US doesn't have a good future, right? It's just feel like it's like a very natural. It's like a country. It's like a community in a way, right? It's also like a organism, right? So it grows. It has its own cycle, right? When it grows so fast, and then after some time it will slow down, so that other communities, other country, they will also grow, right? I mean, as a small guy, right, living in a place, right, what we can do for ourselves. And also for our next generation is, okay, we tell them that, okay, the world doesn't mean that your world doesn't mean that where you live, right? It's actually where you kind of like, you can travel, right? You can work, right? Right now, for example, like our team is like 100% remote, right? So you can work anywhere you want, right? I think the world is getting more connected in that way. And I think CollabLand is building the tools for that, right? Not just for NFT, not just for Web3, but basically a new gateway, right? To connect people. And I think that part is what I think is really, really cool. Yeah, Karen.
Great. I mean, we can talk about communities and families and businesses all day long, but I'm really happy that we have like a family talk. We have like a community talk at the same time. And actually, two worlds do collide, and I'm really happy that James and Angela joined us today. So I'm just gonna wrap it up, and we'll have another show next week on Thursday, same time. And I'm very, very happy to have and both of you guys in CollabLand and learn more about what you guys do. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You so
Thanks a
much.
lot.
You. It's
Thank you.
been delightful. This has been a really fun conversation. Thank you to both of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thank you. And our Discord people just started attacking our mods. So it's like a great love you guys moment here right now. All right, cool. All right. That's it for the show.
Awesome.